are back on the Ribbon Cut podcast. I'm Susan Donkers with my co-host, Charles Hauser.
Hey, how are you doing?
I am great.
Me too.
I'm really looking forward to March Madness.
Ah, yes. March Madness starts Wednesday of next week.
Yes.
Or Thursday, Wednesday, I can't remember.
Depends if you count the lead-in games.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. But it's coming, and it's going to be awesome. Yes, you're right.
Well, some of the first round games are being played here in Greenville.
That's right. That's right. It's going to be wild. It's going to be people here from all over. So that will be fun. I'm also super excited about our guest today.
Yes.
We have Catalina Valencia, and she's Director of Business Development for Minnesota Deed. Welcome, Catalina. I'm so happy that you're with us.
Thank you, Charles and Susan, for having me.
Oh, no problem. So, Catalina, tell us about yourself, your career, and how you wound up in Minneapolis working for the Deed. And then tell us a little bit about Minnesota Deed and what you're trying to accomplish.
Sure. So thank you, first of all, for the opportunity to join you today. I'm Catalina Valencia, and I learned here in the U.S. to pronounce my name as Catalina Valencia, just to make it easier for people. I'm originally from Colombia, but I've been in the U.S. for 25 years now, and from the very first moment that I had to make that decision to choose a career, I chose economic development. And I've been doing economic development for over 25 years now. I started back in Colombia with the Colombian Government Trade Bureau, and then came to the US to study a master's program. And from there, I continued working here in the US, thank you to a number of opportunities that came up, and working on exports promotion. And then I had the opportunity of actually having the opportunity of meeting Susan and working with Susan in Greenville, South Carolina, during a site selector stint that I have for 5 years with global location strategies. And then finally getting me back to the economic development track, working for the state of Minnesota. So I'm Executive Director of Business Development for the Minnesota Department of Employment and Economic Development. We are the state's economic development organization, and something that is pretty unique to our organization is that we have under the same roof workforce development and economic development. So we have those two functions closely interrelated, working closely together, which facilitate things a lot. And I've been in Minnesota working for the state organization for the past 5 years, but then I started working in the middle of COVID from Greenville, South Carolina in 2020. So I'm coming up here to my 6th year with the organization, 5 years in Minnesota since we made the move.
Got it. So I would imagine, as Executive Director of Business Development, you're trying to land new prospects, clients, people place manufacturing facilities, any sort of investment into the state of Minnesota. So if you were on an elevator and had to give a 30-second elevator pitch to someone from Europe and said, this is why you should think about Minnesota, and I know you've probably done this, what is it that you're trying to encompass about Minnesota on a quick message?
Yes, and this state has many strong fundamentals. Actually, that was one of the critical reasons for me to make the decision to come to the state and do what I do today. We have reliable, top-rated infrastructure. This includes 4 Class 1 railroads. We have 3 interstate highways. We have one of the country's top-rated airports, 7 commercial ports, and very reliable water and energy resources. We are also home to one of the country's most talented workforces. Our public and private investments in education over several decades has produced a strong talent for a very diverse economy. And in fact, Minnesota ranks as one of the top states in high school graduation rates and total labor participation. And the state as well, our organization and workforce development partners, we have tools to support workforce training and development across every region of the state. Another important factor, another important asset to Minnesota is our ingenuity, whether conducting the first open heart surgery to shaping global agricultural practices or inventing devices and products that have revolutionized the world. Minnesota has been innovating for many, many generations. We have over dozen accelerators and incubators
Over
that
two
help our
dozen?
startup ecosystem. Dozen?
Did you say over
You,
2 dozen accelerators?
I said yes, over 2 dozen accelerators and incubators.
That is
Wow.
a lot.
Yeah, that is a
That
lot.
is
That's
fantastic. I didn't
yes.
know that one.
Yeah, and we have, many of our largest companies are also partners in those accelerators and
That's
other
why.
startup
It's
programs.
because
That
because
makes
you have
sense.
the
So
corporate headquarters for you've got General Mills
exactly.
and okay, they've got their accelerator program.
Hmm.
Okay.
Exactly. So, we have Cargill, Ecolab, Securian, Financial Alliance. Those are just some of the examples
Yep.
there for those partnerships. And I think another very important factor to the state is we are consistently ranked as one of the happiest, healthiest, and most prosperous states in the state. We have a top tier healthcare system. We have vast natural landscapes, vibrant arts and culture ecosystem here. And we also proudly share values of inclusion, optimism, civic engagement with one of the nation's highest rates of volunteerism and voter participation. And if we add to that the fact that the state has created many different programs to help support the growth of our businesses and business creation, um, we have several instruments that help support the capital investment, the job creation, the workforce training and development as well. That adds up to this equation.
Well, that was a fabulous answer, Catalina. You covered all the bases there. I can tell you've had practice giving that answer. We know that food production and medical technology have been staple industries in Minnesota for a long time. What other industries that people might not know about have made their home in Minnesota outside of those two?
So, yes, food production, medical devices is key to our state, but I'll like to start by saying, for us, that overarching manufacturing sector is the backbone of the state. It
Hmm.
represents 12% of our GDP. It comes up to nearly 25 billion in manufactured exports annually. And our diverse technology driven advanced manufacturing sector is very strong in high tech manufacturing, and that includes computers and electronics, medical devices, as we mentioned before, vehicles, semiconductor, machinery, and equipment. So I would put manufacturing overall as that backbone for our state.
Are there any industries that maybe are underserved or not don't have as much representation in the state of Minnesota that you're really trying to get to land new clients to target those industries? Any industries that come to mind that you're really trying to search for?
So I won't say they are underrepresented. I say these we have five top industries that we target in our efforts, and that's more a product of industries for which the state has a very strong business case to compete. So this includes some of our traditional, of course, industries and industries that have very robust ecosystems. And within that, we are counting the life sciences sector, not only the medtech sector, the health tech sector, but also biopharmaceuticals and that component as well into that life sciences industry sector. I'm sure you know that we are home to Mayo Clinic, which is the top hospital in the country, and one of the top in the world. We have here as well the largest health insurer with United Health Group. We
Yep.
are also the birthplace of the world's largest medical device maker, which is Medtronic. And we are also known as Medical Alley because of all this robust ecosystem. We are known as the number one health tech cluster in the world. So life sciences continues to be a sector that we target, for which we have a very strong value proposition here in Minnesota. To add to that, we also have clean tech and renewable energy. Our state ranks among the top states for environmental friendliness and sustainability. And we have companies in a broad range of clean technology and renewable energy clusters. That includes biofuels, water technology, wind and solar power. And we actually, I don't know if you know this, but we were the first state in the US that mandated the use of biofuels back in 2005. And we have a very aggressive target of reaching net zero carbon emission for electric generation by 2040. So
Wow.
this is a state that invests heavily on that clean tech and renewable component, and of course, we target heavily that industry sector. Of course, another sector is for us that food production. We are a food production and agricultural powerhouse. We rank fourth in the nation when you look at value of crops, and we are also fourth in agricultural exports, which makes us a top producer of food in the US. So, no surprise, we have global leaders that are here in the state within that value chain. And that includes the nation's largest privately held company in Cargill. So,
Yes.
very strong
Mm-hmm.
sector for us. We have many other 500 Fortune industries here with CHS, General Mills, Hormel Foods, Land O'Lakes, to name some of those.
Yes.
And finally, technology and innovation is another strong sector for us. We have been for a long time home to technology companies in the state. And we have a tech savvy workforce and a very thriving innovation ecosystem with our higher ed institutions, our research and development, and our public private partnerships. And specifically within that sector, computer equipment, sensor technology, product development, telecommunications are key targets for us. And of course, I'm not leaving out our advanced manufacturing sector, which I mentioned previously.
Well, that was very impressive. The statistics and the background of the state of Minnesota. I don't think a lot of people knew. A lot of our people that listen to the podcast might not know all those things, but that was
This
very
is an
impressive.
impressive state.
Yes, it is.
Well, I think what's really interesting about that is when you think about how locations are compared to each other, how they're benchmarked, it's really, I think, important how you draw the geographic lines and how you're comparing data, right? So if you are just looking at Minneapolis, you might miss what's happening in the other regions
Absolutely.
that have these really
Correct.
strong manufacturing base and workforce base. So it's kind of where you draw that that net, what I'm hearing from Catalina is make sure your net that you're throwing around your map is wide enough to capture this 12% of the GDP that's in manufacturing.
Correct.
And if you're not sure, ask the economic developer for the additional information.
Agree.
Because
Correct.
Minnesota, between the major metro and the strong manufacturing in the regions, most likely has a site or a building or a location, if only you would ask.
Yes.
Right? I mean, that's basically what I'm hearing,
Correct.
Catalina. There's not really a sector that the state can't serve.
We definitely are one of the top states in the U.S. In terms of the diversity of our economy, and I think that's what's helped the state weather many economic downturns over the years. So you are right there. Depending on where you look in the state across many different regions, you'll find very important strengths and workforce and industry concentration that makes each region special and significant to the impact to our economic development.
So when you're talking then to site selectors, Catalina, especially since you used to be one, what misconceptions do they have? What myths are you often busting?
So I think the first one that comes to mind is weather. Many people wonder how
Weather.
easy it will be to recruit people to the state because of the weather, and people are surprised. I think I'm a good example myself. Personally, I can say by my own experience, having moved to the state, having moved my family to the state. I don't think a lot of people know and understand how much the diverse set of outdoor activities and how much people in this state enjoy the winter time. People here don't hide behind the door when, we don't hibernate. I guess many people think, okay, when it comes winter time in Minnesota, people just go in their homes and
And sit
hibernate
by the
for,
fire.
I don't know, five. Right. There are many diverse activities that I never imagined existed. And the way people here enjoy the winter time, I think that's one one myth that can be debunked just because we do enjoy, and because of that, we also know how to handle the weather, and that translates not only in our day-to-day lives and how we enjoy our day-to-day way of living, but also translates to business operations. So I've had in some instances projects where the question about, well, what happens in the winter time, or is it more expensive to maintain machinery and equipment, or is it more expensive? So that type of misconception is a critical one that is important for site selectors and others eyeing the state, either for building a new facility, locating here, or for moving to the state. We know how to handle this weather. Our businesses know how to handle this weather. Our industry knows how to handle this weather and make that weather work to its advantage. So I think those are some of the critical misconceptions. And I would also add that because we've been able to learn over the years, adapt, implement new technologies, again, going to our ingenuity, this state also has a very high productivity rate. So many people, when we are talking to site selectors, of course, one of the concerns is with weather, how quickly a facility can be built and can be commissioned. And I have to say that when you compare Minnesota to other states, the productivity rate that we have here, and specifically to this example of constructing a new facility is very high. So this is a state that has adapted very well and has made the factors, those external factors that we have, work to our advantage.
That makes sense.
Well, and I think one of the things too, I think there's a cultural element. There's a multi-generational cultural element because I'm a product of Minnesota. My mom and dad are both from Minnesota. My grandparents are Minnesotans from the 1880s. So I'm one of the only Donkers that doesn't live in Minnesota. And so I've got cousins that are part of the food manufacturing. They're growing the food in the state of Minnesota. And so I think it's a cultural element there too around just continuity of operations. You just get up and get at it. There no excuses.
That's
Yeah.
Really, it's passed down.
you just nailed it, because that's something that is impressive here. I've lived in many different states across the country, and whenever in anywhere else you have any threat of some snow or some icy roads, then everything gets shut down. Here in Minnesota, we know how to handle that, and the continuity that's a big truth. Our businesses don't stop, operations don't stop, and that provides certainty to businesses that come here, that locate here. People are going to show up. We have, again, to an earlier point I made, we have one of the highest labor force participation rates in the country. And I think that's one of the greatest advantages that we have to speak about our workforce. Is workforce will show up regardless of what the weather looks outside. So you are totally right there.
Well, so Catalina, talk a little bit about how the department is structured. So you talked about one of the competitive differentiators for Minnesota Department of Employment and Economic Development is that you are a dual department. You've got the workforce and the attraction and retention all in the same place. But talk about kind of the regional structure. How many regions how many economic development regions do you have? And then how many counties do you have? And how does once you kind of paint the picture of that structure, how do you keep everybody communicated with, in alignment, rowing in the same boat? Because there's many economic developers that are listening to this podcast that share those challenges of internal coordination.
Right. That's something we work on every day. And the way we've split the state geographically into 6 distinct regions. We have the Northwest region, Northeast, West Central, which is from St. Cloud all the way to the Moorhead area. We have the Metro region, of course, which is a very large region, and we have the Southwest, South Central region, and Southeast region. So we have the state split into those 6 regions, and then for each of those regions, we have a business development manager and a workforce strategy consultant that is assigned the responsibility of leading business development and workforce strategy within those regions. And those two work closely together. And these are people that live in those regions they represent. They are deeply embedded into not only the business development or the workforce strategy work that we do, but they are actively engaged in community and broader economic development efforts. They have very strong, long-lasting relationships that they built from being in the community for many years with our different stakeholders and our partners across the state. And they are that first point of contact within the regions.
Yep.
So our partners, they know that if they need something from our economic development department, then they have that one point of contact. So it kind of helps funnel and make it very targeted for those relationships to build around those individuals in each region. They are very well trusted. They are very well positioned within their regions, and they are empowered to lead, again, business development and economic development efforts in their regions.
You know, this is the second time today that this word trust and trusted has come up, and I'm writing it down and circling it. So more to come, I'm sure, on that. That's
Yep.
quite a common theme. Let's
Yeah,
talk
you
a little
cannot
bit
do
about
anything if you don't trust.
right. Let's talk a little bit about your international experience. So we talked about how you're from Colombia, but you've also traveled internationally quite a bit doing business development. How has your international experience shaped the way you develop strategy for Minnesota? I mean, you have quite a bit of foreign direct investment that comes into the state.
Correct. So my experience over the years, having had that exposure into not only directly working on export promotion, but also working on international business development and helping build markets for remittance products at one point in my life, as well as the work as a site selector and having that exposure into different industries and what drives these location decisions and expansion decisions. And now, again, back into the side of economic development and business attraction, retention, and expansion, has provided a very broad perspective into the many different factors that come into play when businesses are making these decisions. It's not only thinking about what technical components, what infrastructure components in terms of the workforce, what's needed for the workforce, but it's also accounting for that interconnectivity that exists between how we, from a state like Minnesota, for example, can help facilitate that connection into the world and the different markets that these businesses have. So it has facilitated for me being able to bring in that expertise and work with the team to have a more comprehensive perspective into the work we do and the strategies that we implement, from the marketing piece for to the ecosystem building piece, to the very specific business attraction, business retention efforts that we implement. So I think it's allowed me to have a broader perspective into what comes into play for the work that we are here to do.
What I'm visualizing as you're saying that, Catalina, is the ecosystem and the supply chain, right? So one of the things I learned from you quite a long time ago when I first met you is that you can take a supply chain of what's happening before a product gets to a manufacturing plant and where it goes after, and you can map it and you can model it. So being aware, and my husband calls it the value chain. You know, some people call it the supply chain. So because you're starting from some component and then it's moving on, it's traveling around the world, getting value added to it at each stop.
Yep.
And understanding those flows and how those products and revenues flow are kind of like these hidden interstate highways in a way.
Absolutely.
Right? That's how the world economy works. And I just keep looking at this medical alley map behind your head on the wall, and that's an example of an ecosystem map
Absolutely.
of how
That's an ecosystem map. And if you go to the Medical Alleys Association website, you'll see there a world map that shows, talking about that international connectivity for that value chain, shows many different interconnections around the world not only for what's based here out of Minnesota, but also for what exists out in the world, for those many different relationships that Medical Alley has built over the years that also allow our companies in the medical device space to access that robust global ecosystem.
So, Catalina, it's been very clear having you today that Minnesota has been hugely successful attracting top world class companies to not only locate their business in Minnesota, but also continue to build their business in Minnesota and stay in Minnesota. What if you look ahead 10 years? What are the risk factors for keeping that up? What do you have to keep doing, or what is it that you could possibly not do if your eye gets off the ball that would maybe impede that? So, you know, how do you remain competitive for the next 10 years? I guess is my question. You got a lot of states that are trying to change their tax codes and change, uh, uh, incentives for companies. What is it that Minnesota has to do to remain competitive for the next 10 years?
Yeah, so and specifically to the work of business attraction, retention, and expansion, I think one thing that we are working on and we need to continue working stronger on is site readiness is one critical
Mm-hmm.
factor for our state. And I actually, I like to make a parenthesis there. With actually this state, is a state with many of these large companies that we have today and these significant operations are operations that have been born within the state. So actually a large
Mm.
percentage of our activity and our pipeline is concentrated on business expansion,
Yeah.
much more than business attraction. That keeps us busy just right there, just because we have so many diverse companies that have been bred in the state. But I'd say site readiness is one of those immediate tactics and things that we need to invest on and that we need to be just stronger on is being able to have that readiness for projects, be able to respond and get our foot in the door quicker for project opportunities. I think that's one. The other one that is big for us, and I think for every state, is our energy infrastructure. I think we are all struggling and discussing and living through just facing how many industries have come at our doorstep and they are putting a pressure on that energy infrastructure. So ensuring that the infrastructure is here will be critical for ensuring that we can capitalize on the opportunities
Mm-hmm.
and the industry needs that we have ahead. And to add to that, for a state like this, where these very aggressive targets around clean energy, greener energy, what will be important is balancing out that urgency for that needed infrastructure with those very aggressive clean energy, greener energy targets that the state has. So that's an interesting balance that the state and that we have to wrestle with. And finally, I would note not only applicable to us, applicable I think across the world is how quickly and successfully we can keep pace with adapting to the changes, the opportunities, the challenges that artificial intelligence is
Mm-hmm.
bringing, not only to our workforce, but also to our business operations, to the way we interact, to the way we negotiate, to the way our businesses manufacture products, and that component of AI governance will be very, very important. Is how we make all of these work in our favor and not against us as these technologies evolve.
That makes sense. We're running out of time here, Catalina, but I want to end with one last question, which is obviously you've been on the site selection side, you've been on the economic development side. What excites you every day about waking up and doing your job? What gets you out of bed every morning, and why are you excited to get to work?
So I'd say again, fostering economic development and doing this economic development work, even though I didn't know then when I had to make my first career decision, it was called economic development. That's been the one thing that I had very very clear from the get go, and that was something that was instilled by watching my dad's own entrepreneurial journey. And realizing how important small businesses and the capacity that those businesses have to grow, and how important the support of different public private tools are for allowing that grow, allowing the job creation, and allowing setting up a base for economic development. That's always been my passion. So starting there. But when you have the opportunity of doing that work for a state like Minnesota, with the diverse economy that we have, that invests heavily in infrastructure, in education, in resource preservation, in healthcare, and many critical factors that are important to businesses, to families, to individuals, and a state that has these social values is frankly an honor, and it's a daily huge motivator for me to come to work every day. So I hope that answers your
Yeah,
question.
no, that was great, and it is clear by talking to you and your message that you really enjoy what you're doing. Number one, and that you're really good at what you do. I can tell. I mean, the way you talk about the advantages of Minnesota, it came very natural. And I first of all, I appreciate your time because I know it's important. So thank you for
Thank
joining
you.
us,
Thank you so
Susan.
much.
Catalina, it was an absolute pleasure. It's so nice to see you loving Minnesota. And
Likewise.
it was great. It was just great to talk to you today, and looking forward to continuing our conversations.